Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. In this video, we are going to look at table relationship in SQL. Let me try to, okay, I think this is fine. So yes, we can say relationships in SQL refer to the associations or connections between tables in a relational database. These relationships are established using foreign keys. So it's very important that we understand what primary and foreign keys are, right? So we said these relationships in SQL are established using foreign keys, which are columns that columns in a table that refer to the primary key in another table. So what it means, like if I say a foreign key, just like saying that I'm somebody in a foreign land, right? So I'm a Nigerian, but I'm presently in the US, so I'm in a foreign land. So basically, if I'm saying relationships are established using foreign keys, it means that there are primary keys where these foreign keys are primary keys in another table, right? So they are foreign because they are in another table. I hope that makes sense, right? So we have primary key and we have foreign keys. Now, primary keys are primary, they are unique identifiers in their own table. So let me give you an example, right? We have a product table, right? And in that product table, because we want to have idea or knowledge about each product ID, product name, product price, and whatever, right? Date of manufacture of the product. So every other columns will be speaking to our product ID, right? So product name, let's say we have product ID, a column called product ID, and the product ID for one of the bags is, or one of the product is one, right? Then the product name for that for that product ID, is Chanel bag. The product price for that Chanel bag is $300. So you see, each columns are describing the product ID one. That's the meaning. So in that sense, if you have another product ID called 2, product ID 2 might be a D&G bag. The price of a D&G bag, would be in another column, which is the product price column, would be $400. So you see, for that product ID 2, we have other columns describing our product ID 2. So in that sense, our product ID column is our primary key. But now, when we have, let's say we have another different table called customer table, right? And we want to be able to see the kind of product or the product IDs that each customer bought, right? So in that sense, our product ID column would be in our customer table as a foreign key, right? So that's the link. So for we to link our customer table in that context and our product table, we have primary keys and foreign keys, right? So our product ID column is a primary key in the product table, but it will be a foreign key in the customer table. See, so that's basically it. That's basically relationships in SQL, right? So relationships help organize and structure data, allowing for efficient data retrieval and maintaining data integrity. There are different types of relationships: one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, and self-referencing. So let's try to look at what this means. Yeah. So yes. So let's just go through each and every one of them quickly. So relationships in SQL tables define how tables are connected to one another. Very important. Building relationships in tables helps us to organize and link data across multiple tables, just like what I said, right? With the help of primary keys and our foreign keys. Now we come here and we see that it says relationship in SQL refer to the associations or connections between tables. Very, very important, right? These are key takeaways. Relationships in SQL refers to the associations and connections between tables, right? In a relational database. Now let's move. So types of relationships in SQL. We have one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, self-referencing. So one-to-many and many-to-many, or rather one-to-many, many-to-many, self-referencing, right? And then one-to-one. So let's look at each and every one of them. So one-to-one relationship, what does this entail? It means that definition says each record in table A is associated with one and only one record in table B. Guys, very important. Each record in table A is associated with one and only one record in table B, vice versa. Now, let's look at an example. So, include a foreign key in one of the tables that refers. Okay, this is like when you want to create a table, right? When you are trying to create a table from scratch. So, but for us to understand what we want to do here, we want to understand these types of relationships, right? Now, let's see. So this is like the syntax when you're trying to create different tables, right? When you're trying to create this table A and then table B that we want to use for this scenario, like our users table in this sense, and then our user profiles table, right? But now this is what we are interested in, right? Our table A, table B. Now remember, one-to-one says each record in table A is associated with only one record in table B. So we are looking at two tables, table A called user table and table B called the user profile table, right? Now, remember what we talked about. For you to connect tables, for you to relate tables, you need to understand the concepts behind primary key and foreign key, and I've explained in the beginning of this video, right? Now, these are two tables, table A, table B. Now, in this sense, look at this. It's saying our primary key is shaded yellow. So our primary key column is this. Why? Because for every username, it is unique. Ramesh will no longer appear here because we only have one Ramesh and the user ID for Ramesh is 1. Just like, I go again, another example. When you're in your university, you have registration number, right? That registration number will never be used by anybody, right? It is peculiar to you. So in this sense, this customer, this user has this ID 1, peculiar to Ramesh. Nobody else will have that ID, right? So it comes down to Ria. Ria has an ID 2, Akio has an ID 3, right? Now let's go back to the second table, which has profile ID, right? Now we understand that because user ID is a primary key in this table called the user table, right? Where every other column speaks to describe this user ID, right? Now, because this user ID is located in another table, which is the user profile table, and if you notice, the primary key here in this user profile table is our profile ID column, not the user ID, right? So our user ID in this sense here is a foreign key because it's in a foreign table. That's the meaning. So for we to connect these two tables together, and if we want to use our one-to-one, right, we will connect our primary key, which is the user ID, and then the foreign key, which is still the same user ID, but in a foreign table, right? So when you connect it, it's now one-to-one. Why is it one-to-one? Notice that everything is unique in the sense that this profile ID belongs to this user, which is basically Ramesh, right? This profile ID also belongs to this user called 2, which is basically Ria. So if I'm trying to connect these two tables together, it will be one-to-one, unique entry to unique entries, not unique entries to multiple entries, right? One-to-one, unique entry to unique entry. 1 connects to 1, which is Ramesh, connects to this Ramesh. Ria connects to Ria, which is user ID 2, user ID 2. User ID 3 connects to user ID 3. So 1-to-1. So that's the meaning, guys. That's what it means by connecting, associating tables together with the concept of primary keys and foreign keys. Very, very important. Now let's look at one-to-many. It says each record in table A, very important, can be associated with multiple records, guys. Multiple records in table B. But each record in table B is associated with only one record in table A. You see, initially we did one-to-one. So one record in table A was connected to one record in table B initially. But in this sense, we have our one record in table A to be connected to multiple records in table B. Let's look at an example. So now, watch, guys. Now, still remember, we still have a concept of primary key, foreign key. The column that are shaded yellow is the primary key in each table. The columns that are shaded foreign key, or rather green, is the foreign key. Now, for this table, we have department table. Now, everybody can bear me witness, right? We have select department, right? So if we want to track each department, we can term give them different IDs, right? So we in our university we might have technical department. The unique ID for technical department will be D1, right? So anybody from technical department will definitely have its department or his department ID, his or her department ID to be D1, right? That's the idea. Then we have another department called accounts. The department ID for account is D2, right? So you would not see PR or product manager to have, or product management department to have D2 ID. No, it's not possible, right? Because each entries here are unique. Each record. So if I say record, it means this row. Rows and records are almost the same thing, or not, they are the same thing. Just like if I say columns and fields, they are the same thing, right? So if I say records or rows or entries, it means this row, D1 technical, D2 accounts, D3 PR, D4 product management, right? So now let's look at our employees table, right? So now guys, notice that in our employees tables, right, we might have select employees, right? Unique employees, because you will not have an employee that appears twice. Or let's say I'm an employee in a university, I will not have myself appearing twice, right? I will definitely have my own unique employee ID and my name that is unique, right? My employee ID is definitely going to be unique. Okay, my employee name might not be unique because another person might bear my name, but my employee ID would be unique. Nobody would have access to my employee ID, right? But now, the idea is, am I being in the same department with another person, right? So definitely our department ID in this table would definitely appear more than once, because Ramesh can be in the same department with Rhea, just like what I'm seeing here. Ramesh, or rather, let's use Ria. Ria is in the same department, which is D1, technical, right? With who? Mayank. So you see that we now have several occurrences of our departmental ID, right? And in this case, because department ID is a primary key in another table, which is table A, department, but in this case, it's going to be a foreign key here because it's in a foreign table, employees table. But our employee ID here is the primary key in this table. Right? So if I want to connect these two tables together, I have my foreign key, which is departmental ID. And yes, it's a foreign key here because it has its own primary key in another table called department table. So I can connect these two tables and I will connect them with the basis of one to many, right? So in the sense that each record or each unique record or each entries will be connected to multiple entries in our table B. And then multiple entries here will be connected to unique entries in our table A. That's what one to many means, right? So if I want to connect D1, right, to another D1 here, I'm going to see a lot of D1s, right? But hey, in my departmental table, we just have one record where we have D1, right? So D1 is connected here uniquely to multiple entries of D1s here, right? So that's the idea. That's what one to many means. That's what one to many relationship means in SQL. Now let's move down. So look at many to many. So basically, you would understand, if you understand the concept of one to many, one to one, then you need to understand what many to many means, right? Where you have each record in table A associated with multiple records in table B, and then vice versa, right? We have multiple records in table B connecting to multiple records in table A. So that's basically it, right? So if you look at this example, you would also understand that yes, you have multiple records in table A connecting to multiple records in table B, right? And also we also have another table called student courses, right? So you might have a table that has your student ID, and then you have another table, or rather another column that has course ID, right? So basically what this means is it's telling us this student that has this ID offers this course with 101, right? So that's basically, so in a separate table you now have primary key and then a primary key also, right? So you both have, notice that in this table you have student ID, student name, right? Everything is unique. In our course table we have our course ID and course name, everything is unique. But in another separate table you have foreign keys basically here, right? So if you want to connect this, you definitely have different entries, right? Multiple records to multiple records here as well. So That is basically what it means. So let's go to many to one. So many to one, I can say many to one is basically the same thing as one to many, right? It's just flip side, right? So many to one to many is basically the same thing. So let's go up to the last, which is self-referencing. So self-referencing is when you, so an example is this what we have on the screen, right? You have a column in our employees table. You have a column called employee ID, employee name, and then manager ID. Now, guys, understand, an employee ID, employee name. So employee ID signifies, or rather employee name is describing employee ID, right? Alice has an ID 1, unique. Bob has an ID 2. Charlie has an ID 3. But now your manager ID now would now be, who does Alice report to, right? Who does Bob report to? Who does Charlie report to? By the end of the day, what if Alice, Bob, and Charlie report to one manager that has an ID 1, right? And then, or I go again, let's say Bob, Charlie reports to Alice, right? In this sense, you guys understand, right? We have employee ID, we have employee name, right? Now, we understand that Alice is our boss, Alice is our manager, right? But at the end of the day, he or she is still an employee. And the employee ID for Alice is 1, right? Bob is an employee. The employee ID for Bob is 2. Charlie is an employee. The employee ID for Charlie is 3. But now, Bob and Charlie report to Alice, right? So definitely on our manager ID column, we are going to see that, okay, Bob's manager is definitely Alice, which has an employee ID 1, right? We'll fix it here. Or a manager ID 1, we'll fix it here. Charlie does the same, or rather, Charlie reports to the same person, Alice, that has the manager ID or employee ID 1, we'll fix it here, right? But now, how do we treat Alice since Alice is the boss, right? Right? Are we supposed to put 1 here? That's the idea. That's what it means by self-referencing, right? Self-referencing. So what we did here is, because Alice does not report to anybody, right? Alice is the boss. So Alice does not report. Alice does not have a manager over him or her, right? So that's why we fixed null here, right? So that's the meaning of self-referencing. Let's go to the definition. It says a table has a foreign key that references its primary key. That's basically what self-referencing means. So a table that has a foreign key, in this sense, our manager ID is a foreign key, right? Because it has its own table, right? It has its own table where it's a primary key. Then, but now it references its own primary key at the end of the day. So that's what it means, right? So I hope with this, we've been able to get a little knowledge about how relationships are done in SQL, 1 to many, many to many, many to 1, self-referencing, and the rest, right? So with this, we have come to the end of this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.